Thank you, Debbie, and thank you for the perspective, Antonia. Phenomenal stuff. I'm Brian Yamada. I'm based in our Kansas City office, and if you've read the news lately, you can't avoid the metaverse. It has quickly leapt into our industry and to our culture. And our next guest is here to help decode it. Luke Hurd is an augmented reality influencer and a director of experience design at VMLY&R, specializing in all things metaverse. His background combines development, design, user experience, and strategy. He's the official creator and instructor for Meta's Spark AR curriculum and certification. And he's developed experiences for partners like Coachella, National Geographic, and NASA that reach hundreds of millions of people around the world daily. So we're glad to have him as part of our team and have him here today to provide some perspective on the metaverse and what it means. Luke, take it away.
Thanks for that great introduction, BY. So I'm going to take a few minutes today, and we're going to talk about everyone's favorite hot topic word, which is the metaverse. And if you've definitely seen this word out there, if you're in marketing, it's everywhere from Time Magazine to the Wall Street Journal to the New York Times. It is everywhere. But what exactly does it mean? So let's start off with a couple level-setting quotes from some tech CEOs who are actually building the metaverse. We're going to start off with Satya Nadella. We are creating an entirely new platform layer called the metaverse. In a sense, the metaverse enables us to embed computing into the real world and embed the real world into computing. So a further blend of that physical and digital world. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg, we believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. We'll be able to feel present, like we're right there with people, no matter how far apart we actually are. So again, bringing that nice physical and digital reality together. Now, when we think about the metaverse, most of us probably think of it in terms like this, where we're seeing these kind of translucent blue lines everywhere and these kind of spatial interfaces, maybe a hologram, maybe we have a headset on. The interesting thing about this is we've been building this reality since Star Wars. So this is all from 1977. You'll notice there's not a whole lot of screens in these screenshots here. They're mostly holographic displays. That means that we've been envisioning this for quite some time, but haven't quite had the computing power to get there. And we see this, again, multiple times, all the way through the past 40 years in all kinds of media, from Avatar to Marvel movies to even very famously Minority Report and its very famous interfaces. So before we get too far into that heady space, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's try to explain how we got here and why we're here in the first place and where we're going. So we've been building this for quite some time. Now we think about this computing layer system here and these three topics here: interface, logic, and data. So the first one here, we all probably got used to doing our taxes way back in the day in the late 70s, early 80s on these air-gapped machines, these machines that were not plugged into the internet. We had maybe a desktop or a terminal, some software that we ran, and if we were lucky, maybe a database where we saved something locally on our machines. In 1990 to 1995, we all started plugging our computers into the internet. And what that meant was that we started moving away from the desktop and into the browser, away from localized software on our computer and into websites and content service providers like AOL and Prodigy and CompuServe, and maybe even taking files on our computer and moving them off of there into an FTP site, storing them on a computer somewhere out there on the internet. And we see this time and time again throughout the 90s. And then around 2005, that's where we have the mobile explosion. So we start moving, again, off of our desktop browser into a mobile browser, off of these websites and into responsive web apps and into apps that are localized on our phones. And then moving off of our FTP site, this computer out there on the internet, to having tons and tons of computers out there. Then that makes up the cloud. That's basically a lot of different systems out there. So just keep iterating and iterating on these next steps. And the next one here really started in 2016. And this is what we refer to as the metaverse. So believe it or not, we're already kind of in it a little bit. So things like Internet of Things, IoT. So we look at things like the Echo Dot, which you can see here. A lot of us got used to these type of new interfaces 4 or 5 years ago. And now we're moving into new interfaces with things like spatial audio, headsets, hand tracking, and more. The next layer underneath this is going to be artificial intelligence, machine learning. So the difference here is that maybe you were used to using your software in the past. Now your computer will be using your software a little bit more for you. So there's going to be a lot more machine learning going on because a lot of this takes place in the camera now. The computer is looking out into the world and trying to interpret. This bottom layer here, again, we're going to be iterating more on the cloud and moving into edge computing. So that's kind of like the cloud, but it just gets you there a little bit faster. And then things like decentralization. So that means everything from blockchain to NFTs, which we've all heard about here recently, all just iterative builds on the past. So when we back up, when we look at this past build of systems, it's really all about the devices that we're connecting to the internet. And you can see this huge growth here at the bottom. So starting around 1975, that's where we started hooking things up to the internet as it was. And it took about 25 years or so for us to get to 1 million, about 12 years to get to 1 billion, and we're almost all the way to 83 billion in 2024. That is a lot of devices connected to the internet, and that is a lot of information. The reason for that is because we love to digitize every aspect of our life. So way back in 1946, we digitized numbers. And the way that we did that, the reason we did that, was so we could do supercomputing, so we could send people to the moon and a million other things. The result of that is being able to push into things like word processing. So in around 1976 or 79, I believe, that's when WordStar came out. And that's where we really started pushing into the publication angle of digitization. 1992, we standardized the MP3 codec. In 1994, we came out with the first digital camera. We started digitizing our movies, our music, our books, everything. We digitize all media, and we continue to do so, and we're not going to stop anytime soon. All the way through here in 1999, the Benefon ESC came out, which was the world's first GPS-enabled phone. So that means we digitized our location down to these very small points on the planet. We're digitizing wallets. We digitize our health data. We digitize our currency. We digitize everything, everything. And we're going to continue to push further and further into that realm. The reason for this is because we connect everything to the internet. Everything from cars to refrigerators to basketballs to our thermostats, again, to our watches that watch our health data. Our heartbeat is connected to the internet. If our heartbeat's connected to the internet, obviously our identity has to be connected there as well. So we see this further and further push of identification and expression of individuals on the internet and in the metaverse. And we see this through everything like avatar systems, like Snap's Bitmoji system, Apple's Memoji system, all the way to wearables up here at the top. These are shoes that you can wear on different platforms, and even being able to buy artwork and use that as your profile picture on Twitter. So a lot of different ways that people can express themselves right now. That is only going to continue as we continue to iterate on our stack. So we think of identity, our whole identity, as a spectrum on the internet. So we'll use Ariana here as a great example. This is Ariana in real life. This is her probably in an airport somewhere getting a casual photo taken. This is what she looks like in the normal world. It's not a cultivated experience. But then we push further into how she represents herself socially. Socially, she's much more put together. It's much more cultivated. The scenes are there. The makeup is there. The hair is there. Maybe the coloring is even done inside of the scene. We push a little bit further and we look at her augmented identity. These are things like virtual makeup, being able to slim your face down a little bit virtually, even being able to do things like wear dog ears or whatever type of irreverent thing you want to put on your face. The next step of this is a full virtual representation, and this is her in Fortnite. So we have this full spectrum, and we exist in between these points as well. They're not four pieces. It's really a nice spectrum of in between here. We see this all the time, and the reason for this is because the metaverse is made up of a lot of different systems, everywhere from identity to commerce to culture to social to even AI and IoT, artificial intelligence and Internet of Things and augmented reality. So there's a lot of things going on with the metaverse. So it can be a little cumbersome. It feels sometimes like the metaverse is everything. Well, that's kind of the joke. The metaverse is everything. And if I were to replace the word metaverse on this list here with the word internet, a lot of this would make a lot more sense. The internet is a tool. The internet is XR. It is video games. It is a brand. It is meetings and social. It's dating. The metaverse is all these things as well. We're just simply iterating on the internet. That's the next internet. So as we grow into these spaces, The important thing to see here is that's a lot of different ways for brands to be able to play and activate within the metaverse. You don't need to build a virtual world. There's a bunch of ways to get in. So as we think about this and how brands play in these spaces, it's really important to think about these three key tenets. The first one here is be a resident. Be a resident in the space. That means be an investor in the space. You want to make sure that what you're doing feels like you're there to stay. You're there to support the system that we're building. So everything from Nike buying Artifact, which is an NFT company, all the way down to Adidas buying land in Sandbox. Now, Adidas just bought the land and have sat on it for about 8 months. They haven't built a thing. But just investing in the space has made them a metaverse brand, and they've been very strong. If you Google that, you'll very much see that. This middle column here is purpose over profit, and we see this all the time. We want to make sure that when we're a brand and we're out there and we're supporting the system, we want a purpose. We have to have a reason to be there. This greater reason that we see, and we see this all the time in some great work from Under Armour and Steph Curry. For instance, these are some NFTs that were sold to celebrate Steph Curry breaking the three-point limit in the NBA. They released almost 3,000 or 4,000 shoes, and what that meant was that they were able to generate about $1 million in 30 minutes off sales and flip that right back around to affected youth who needed to have better access to sports. So we see this purpose over profit. It's not about putting the money in your pocket, it's about taking it and reinvesting it back into something else. This last one over here is very, very important. It's focus on craft. So as we delve into these spaces, sometimes it can kind of feel like FOMO and you want to get in there as quick as possible. Take some time, take a breather. Samsung did a great activation inside of Decentraland. That's an NFT blockchain-based community. They sell NFT-enabled televisions. So that means when you buy an artwork online, you can go enable it and show it on your television at home. So great one-for-one in the community and space there. And one of my favorites here is Wendyverse. Wendy, we've been working with Wendy's for quite some time. Being able to take that brand voice and pull it into a virtual world, but also build a virtual world that made sense for the people who were already there was very, very, very important to making sure that this craft made sense in the end. So again, as we go through these three pieces, be a resident, make sure that you have some sort of a purpose in the space, and make sure that you're focusing on your craft. No MVP, focus on craft. So to wrap this up, we're going to jump into Q&A with BY, and I'll see you in the metaverse.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for meeting me here. And thank you for the quick perspective. So the first question for brands thinking about jumping in, how can they authentically communicate in these emerging spaces?
Well, that's a great question. When we work with these brands in these spaces, we feel like, people are here because they want to be here. There's some barriers and some obstacles that people have to overcome to get into some of these emerging spaces. So some of the things we like to talk to brands about are, one, serving a real need, serving a need for people in these spaces and making sure that we're doing something that's very purposeful for them. Two would be to just get out of the way. So we know a lot of times brands want to tell their story in the space and they want to be a little more forward, but we do want to kind of pull that back a little bit and make sure that you're observing more than anything. When you're building these experiences, you also want to make sure that you're giving someone a gift, not necessarily an ad, but a gift that they can use. So kind of lining up in that similar sense of serving a real need. And then finally, just making it fun and easy. A lot of times the experiences that we can build in these can get a little crazy and wild. So we want to make sure that we are keeping it simple and fun.
That's great. Another question that I think a lot of marketers have is the metaverse is still forming. So what advice do you have about when to jump in? How soon?
Well, it's always great to jump in as soon as you can. The lucky thing about starting off early is that everyone is starting off early. So there's a lot to learn in these spaces, and the people that learn the quickest are usually the ones that can rebound the fastest as things change. So as you said, everything changes in this space very quickly. There's nothing wrong with going out there and trying. And there's a lot of different ways to try. There's a lot of ways in, as we discussed previously. So, I think one of the key things really is just to keep in mind is you want to be strategic. You want to make sure you're, again, following kind of these rules that we're talking about, and then understanding that, there's no better time than now, really. And it will only continue to get more exciting, but there's always a fun time to go walk on the moon with us.
Yep, absolutely agree. Absolutely. Well, Luke, thank you very much for the perspective and sharing your thoughts. and I'll pass it across to our team across the pond in London to take it from here. Thanks.
All right.